We had maybe 6 hours, maybe less. After that, the infection would spread from the mass into her bloodstream, and nothing we could do would matter. The elephant would die. And the calf standing guard beside her? He'd die too. Slowly, alone. That's how it works out here. The temperature was pushing 38 Celsius by the time we got the call. Dry season in Kenya's southern sector, about 40 kilometers west of Amboseli. The dust was so thick, you could taste it coating your teeth, your throat, turning your sweat into mud streaks down your neck. A female elephant, maybe 30 years old, 4,000 kilos of muscle and bone and will, was down in the scrubland with something hanging from her belly. Something that shouldn't be there. Something big enough that local rangers could see it from 200 meters out. Park officials had been monitoring her for 3 days. She was moving slower each day, stopping more often, her trunk drooping lower. The mass, whatever it was, dragged in the dirt when she walked. And her calf, maybe 18 months old, refused to leave her side. He'd trumpet when she stopped moving, nudge her with his head, try to get her to stand when she went down. 3 days of that. 3 days of watching his mother dying by inches. But here's the thing, she was still standing when we arrived, still fighting. Most elephants with abdominal masses this severe would have gone down for good by day 2. Not her. She was forcing herself upright every time she collapsed, driven by some primal instinct that if she stayed down, her calf would be orphaned. If we couldn't stabilize her, if we couldn't get that mass out, that's exactly what would happen. This wasn't just a medical emergency. This was a race against a mother's will giving out. If stories like this matter to you, if you care about wildlife, about the people who risk everything to save them, hit that subscribe button. Every subscription helps support rescues like this one. Real animals, real danger, real outcomes. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Texas? California? Somewhere overseas? I want to know who's part of this community. I'm Dr. Kate Morrison, and I've spent 14 years running field operations for the Kenya Wildlife Veterinary Unit. I've darted charging bulls, treated poaching victims, delivered breech calves in the middle of nowhere. I've seen elephants survive things that should have killed them, and I've watched them die from things that shouldn't have. You learn to read the odds pretty fast in this job. You learn when to push hard and when to know your beat. What you're about to hear. This was the most complex emergency extraction I've ever led. I've worked on elephants with gunshot wounds, snare injuries, broken legs, but this, a massive abdominal tumor in a deteriorating mother with a dependent calf, 40 kilometers from the nearest surgical facility, in heat that could kill her as easily as the mass itself. This rewrote what I thought was possible. This is the weight she carried. And this is exactly how it went down. It started with Marcus radioing me at 0847 hours. I was at the research station, halfway through my second cup of coffee, that tasted like diesel fuel and regret. Kate, we've got a code red in Sector 7. Adult female, severe abdominal presentation, calf in attendance. I set the cup down. Code red meant drop everything. How severe? Rangers say the mass is the size of a feed sack, dragging in the dirt. She's cachectic. Medical speak for wasting away. Muscle loss, weakness, the body consuming itself. Whatever was growing in her belly had been stealing her resources for weeks, maybe months. How's her mobility? Slow but steady. She's still upright. For now, calf's age? 1.5 years, maybe less. Still nursing. I closed my eyes. 1.5 years meant he was weaned, but not independent. Not even close. If she died, he'd follow within weeks. Starvation, predators, or just giving up. Elephant calves are smart enough to understand when their mothers are gone. Sometimes that knowledge kills them faster than hunger. Assemble the team, I said. Full surgical kit. Crane truck. I want transport ready at the staging area. We're bringing her back. Kate, I know what you're thinking. We've never transported an elephant this compromised. But leaving her out there isn't an option. Get everyone. We move in 30. 28 minutes later, we were rolling out. 2 trucks, 8 people, Enough equipment to field dress a jumbo jet. Marcus rode with me in the lead vehicle, going over the plan. Marcus Chen was my number 234, former emergency medicine, steady hands, steadier nerves. He'd been with the unit for 6 years. We'd worked together long enough that I could read his silences. Right now, his silence said he thought this was a bad idea. Say it, I told him. Say what? Whatever you're thinking. He checked the equipment list on his tablet. Transport protocols recommend against moving elephants with significant abdominal compromise, increased risk of cardiovascular collapse, respiratory failure, shock. I know the protocols. Then you know this could kill her faster than leaving her in the field. She's dying anyway, Marcus. 3 days with that mass, cachectic, dry season heat. She's got maybe 48 hours left. Probably less. Out there, we can't do anything except watch. At the center, we've got a surgical suite, blood products, monitoring equipment. We've got a chance. A small chance. Better than none. He didn't argue. That's why I liked Marcus. He'd voice his concerns once, then commit. No second guessing, no undermining. When the call got made, he was all in. Dr. Sarah Harris was in the truck behind us with the darting equipment. Sarah was our sedation specialist. 41, former zoo veterinarian. Probably the best large animal anesthesiologist in East Africa. If anyone could put down a 4,000-kilo elephant with a compromised cardiovascular system and not kill her, it was Sarah. We reached the coordinates at 1,024 hours. The rangers had pulled back to give us room, their trucks forming a loose perimeter 300 meters out. Smart. Elephants don't like crowds, and this female was going to be stressed enough without extra bodies. I spotted her immediately. She was standing under an acacia, head low, trunk trailing in the dust. The calf was pressed against her left flank, his trunk touching her side every few seconds. Checking, making sure she was still there. The mass hung from her lower abdomen like a grotesque pregnancy, dark and swollen, nearly touching the ground. Every time she shifted her weight, the mass moved with her. You could see the effort it took just to stand. Jesus, Marcus breathed. Yeah, I raised my binoculars. Her ribs were visible beneath her skin, not good. Her eyes were half closed, but she was alert, watching us. I could see her ears tracking our vehicles. She knew we were there. She knew we were a threat. Sarah, I radioed, you seeing this? Confirmed. Sarah's voice came back, flat and professional. Severe cachexia. Mass appears to be approximately 60 to 80 kilos. Cardiovascular compromise highly likely. This is going to be a nightmare to dart. Can you do it? I can dart her. Whether her heart survives the sedation is another question. Best estimate? There was a pause. 70-30. 70% she makes it through induction. But Kate, if that mass ruptures during transport, if she crashes during surgery, if her heart can't handle the stress, I know the numbers, Sarah. We're doing this. Copy that. I turned to the team. Miller Davies and Tom Wright were our containment specialists, both former rangers, both built like brick walls, both completely unfazed by angry elephants. Their job was keeping the calf clear once Mom went down. Not easy, not safe, but necessary. Miller, Tom, you've got calf duty. Use the trucks as barriers if you need to, but keep him away from the sedation zone. If he charges while we're working on her, we're screwed. Understood, Miller said. He was already pulling on thick gloves. Elephant calves might be cute, but they're still 300 kilos of muscle with tusks. Getting between one and his mother was a good way to end up in intensive care. Everyone else, once she's down, we move fast. Marcus, you've got the main IV line, front left leg. I'll take vitals and airway. Sarah manages sedation depth. Chen. I nodded to Lisa. Chen, our junior vet. You're on supplemental oxygen and airway support. Team B handles the calf. Radio discipline. No chatter unless it's critical. Questions. No one spoke. All right, Sarah, you're up. Sarah climbed out of the truck with the dart rifle. a new dart X caliber, loaded with etorphine M99 in field terminology. Potent stuff, powerful enough to drop an elephant in minutes, dangerous enough to kill a human with a single drop on exposed skin. She handled it like it was a loaded handgun, because it was. We calculated the dose based on the elephant's visible condition. 4,000 kilos estimated body weight, minus maybe 400 for the cachexia and mass. Call it 3,600 kilos. We'd go conservative 13 milligrams of etorphine mixed with a zaparone for the sedative effect. Enough to bring her down safely, not so much we'd stop her heart. Theory, anyway. Sarah approached on foot, moving slow and deliberate. The female elephant watched her, ears spreading, warning posture. The calf trumpeted high and shrill, afraid. His mother shifted, putting herself between Sarah and her baby. Even dying, even barely able to stand, she was still protecting him. "Easy, Mama," Sarah called softly. "Easy now. Just here to help." Elephants don't understand English, but they understand tone. Sarah's voice was low, calm, non-threatening. The female's ears relaxed slightly. Not much, but enough. Sarah raised the rifle. The female tensed. The dart hit her in the thick muscle of her left hip. Perfect placement. She flinched, turned her head to look at the impact site, then turned back to stare at Sarah. Her expression, if you could call it that, seemed almost curious, like she was trying to figure out what had just happened. Then the etorphine hit her bloodstream. Her legs started to sway, subtle at first, then more pronounced. She took 2 steps sideways, caught herself, took another step. The calf was trumpeting constantly now, pushing against her, trying to keep her upright. She touched his head with her trunk gentle, reassuring. Then her front legs buckled. "She's going down," I radioed. "Everyone in position. Now." The elephant collapsed onto her left side with a sound like a tree falling. The ground shook. Dust exploded in a cloud around her. The calf went ballistic, screaming, charging toward her, trunk raised. "Tom, containment." Tom brought the truck around fast, putting the vehicle between the calf and his mother. The calf hit the side panel with his head, hard enough to dent the metal. He backed up, screamed again, charged. Tom held position. Miller was out on foot, waving his arms, shouting, trying to redirect the calf's attention. I was already running toward the female, medical kit in hand. 2 minutes. That's how long we had before the sedation could start affecting her respiratory system. 2 minutes to get IVs in, check her vitals, make sure she was stable enough for what came next. Marcus was right beside me, IV kit ready. The elephant was breathing fast and shallow, but breathing. Her eyes were half open, pupils dilated. She was under, but not deeply. Light sedation. Enough to work on her, not enough to crash her system. "Main line, front left," I said. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her massive foreleg, feeling for the vein. Elephant veins are deep, hard to find, harder to hit. He got it on the first try. The catheter slid in, blood flashed back. He secured it with tape and connected the fluid line. "We're in," he said. Fluids running. I checked her trunk, making sure it was straight and clear. Elephants can suffocate if their trunk gets kinked while they're down. Lisa was already setting up the oxygen rake, a high-flow mask adapted for elephant airways. "Saturation?" I called. 92%, Lisa said, reading the pulse oximeter clip to the elephant's ear, holding steady. Heart rate? 65. Strong but irregular. Not great. Not terrible. The mass was putting pressure on her cardiovascular system, making her heart work harder than it should. Every minute she stayed down increased the risk. I moved to the mass itself. Up close, it was worse than I'd thought. The size of a large duffel bag, dark purple-black, veins visible beneath stretched skin, hot to the touch. I pulled out the portable ultrasound probe, squeezed gel onto the surface of the mass, pressed the probe against it. The screen showed chaos, solid tissue, fluid pockets, Irregular borders, definitely a tumor, possibly malignant, definitely inoperable in the field. Assessment, Marcus asked. Can't take it out here. Too vascular, too large, too much risk of bleeding out. We need the surgical suite. Transport, then. Transport. I stood up, looked at the massive elephant lying in the dust, at the calf still screaming himself hoarse 30 meters away, at the team standing ready. This was the moment. This was where we committed. Once we started the transport process, once we got her into the sling, onto the truck, moving toward the center, there was no turning back. If she crashed, if the mass ruptured, if her heart gave out, we'd lose her, and the calf. All right, I said, get the crane truck in position. We're taking her home. The crane truck rolled in a modified flatbed with a hydraulic boom strong enough to lift 6,000 kilos. We'd used it before for elephant transports, but never for one this compromised. The driver, Sam, was good. Steady hands, steady nerves. He positioned the truck parallel to the elephant. Boom, extended. We rigged the sling a custom harness made of heavy webbing, designed to distribute the elephant's weight across her chest, belly, and hindquarters without crushing her organs or cutting off circulation. Getting it under her was the hard part. Okay, on 3. We roll her just enough to get the webbing underneath, I directed. Support the head, support the legs. Watch the mass. If it tears, we're done. 1, 2, 3. 6 of us pushed. The elephant's dead weight was enormous. Moving her even a few inches took everything we had. We got the webbing under her center of gravity, adjusted the positioning, pulled it through. Secure the front straps. Watch near the ear, don't pinch. Got it. Hooking the rear. The straps connected to the crane's lifting cables. Sam checked the rigging twice. Ready to lift, he called. Wait. I checked the IV line still secure. Checked the oxygen still flowing. Checked her vitals. Heart rate climbing. Respiration shallow. She was stressed. We were running out of time. Lift her, I said. Slow and steady. The hydraulics whined. The cables went taut. The elephant rose off the ground 10 centimeters, 20, half a meter. She hung in the sling, head drooping, legs dangling. The mass swayed beneath her. I held my breath, watching for any sign of tearing, any flash of blood. Nothing. The mass held. Rotate her over the truck bed, I called. Keep her level. Sam worked the controls like he was defusing a bomb. The crane swiveled, bringing the elephant over the truck's reinforced bed. We'd padded it with foam mats to cushion the landing. Lower her. 1 meter. Steady. She touched down with barely a sound. We secured her to the truck bed with additional straps, kept the IV running, kept the oxygen flowing. Lisa monitored her vitals continuously. Stats? I asked. Heart rate 78. O2 sat 89%. BP 60 over 40. Low but stable. She was holding on. The calf was still screaming. He'd watched the entire process, watched us knock down his mother, surround her, lift her into the air, put her on a truck. To him, we were predators. We were stealing her. We need to get him to follow, I said. Miller nodded. I'll take point vehicle. Lead him to the staging area. Stay slow. If we lose him, we lose everything. The convoy formed up Miller's truck in front, the crane truck with the sedated elephant in the middle, my truck bringing up the rear. Sam started the engine. The elephant didn't stir. She was deep under now. The additional sedative I'd administered, keeping her comfortable for the transport. We started moving, 5 kilometers per hour, watching every bump, every rut in the dirt road. Behind us, the calf followed. He'd stopped screaming. Now he just walked, trunk raised, tracking his mother's scent. Following the truck that carried her, he didn't understand what was happening. He just knew he couldn't lose her. Vitals holding, Lisa reported over the radio. Respiration stable. She's doing okay. For now, the staging area was an old ranger outpost with a cleared pad big enough for the crane truck to maneuver. We'd pre-positioned the surgical transport trailer there, a modified livestock hauler with reinforced sides, proper ventilation, and tie-down points for securing an elephant safely. Getting her from the truck into the trailer was the next nightmare. We arrived at 1,153 hours. The temperature had climbed to 40 Celsius. The elephant was starting to sweat, her skin glistening, heat stress on top of everything else. Get shade tarps over her, I ordered. Wet her down. Lisa, bump the fluids. She's dehydrating. The team moved. We rigged tarps between trucks to create shade. Someone found a hose, started spraying her skin with water. The calf had followed us all the way, and now he stood just outside the perimeter, watching, waiting. We need to load her, Marcus said quietly. Every minute out here in this heat. I know. The trailer was backed up to the crane truck. The plan was simple. Lift her again, swing her over, lower her into the trailer, secure her, roll out. The execution would be anything but simple. All right, people. One more time. Sam, bring her up. The hydraulics engaged. The elephant rose off the truck bed, still limp, still sedated. The mass swung beneath her like a pendulum. We guided her over the trailer opening. The calf charged. He came out of nowhere, trumpeting, head down, going straight for the crane truck. Tom tried to intercept, but the calf was too fast. He slammed into the stabilizer leg, hard enough to shake the whole rig. Hold position, I shouted. The crane swayed. The elephant swung in the sling. Sarah rushed forward with a secondary dart gun loaded with a mild sedative, just enough to calm the calf without knocking him out. She fired. The dart hit him in the shoulder. He wheeled around, confused, then staggered. Not down, but disoriented. Enough. Lower her now. Sam dropped the elephant into the trailer. We had people inside, ready to receive her, guide her positioning. She landed on the padded floor with a heavy thump. We swarmed securing straps, checking the IV, repositioning her legs so they wouldn't cramp. The calf was swaying on his feet outside. The sedative was taking effect, but he was still conscious, still aware. He took 2 steps toward the trailer, then sat down hard in the dust. Get him in the trailer with her, I said. Kate, do it. He needs to be with her. If we separate them now, he'll panic. Get him in there. Miller and Tom worked fast. The calf was small enough, barely 300 kilos, that 4 people could lift him with straps. We got him into the trailer, positioned him near his mother's head. His trunk reached out, touched her face. Close it up, I said. We're rolling in 5 minutes. The trailer doors shut. The convoy reformed this time for the long haul. 43 kilometers to the Wildlife Veterinary Center on paved roads. 90 minutes if we pushed it. 90 minutes where anything could go wrong. I rode in the trailer with them. Marcus drove. Sarah monitored vitals from the cab, calling them back to me over the radio. The elephant's breathing was shallow but steady. Her heart rate had climbed to 85, higher than I wanted, but not critical. The calf was fully sedated now, his small body pressed against his mother's larger one. The road was rough for the first 20 kilometers, then smoothed out as we hit pavement. The trailer swayed with every turn. I kept one hand on the elephant's shoulder, feeling her breathing, counting the seconds between breaths. 20 seconds, 21, 22. Too slow. Sarah, she's bradycardic. I need you to prepare a respiratory stimulant. Standing by. 30 seconds. The elephant's chest wasn't moving. She stopped breathing. I grabbed the ambu bag, a manual respirator adapted for large animals, jammed it over her trunk opening, and started pumping. 1 breath, 2, 3, forcing oxygen into her lungs. Come on, Mama, come on. Marcus hit the brakes. The trailer lurched. Sarah was climbing through the access panel from the cab, syringe in hand. Doxapram, she said. Respiratory stimulant. This should kickstart her breathing reflex. She found the IV port, pushed the medication. We waited. 5 seconds. 10, 15. The elephant's chest expanded. A breath, shallow, but there. Another one. Her breathing resumed irregular at first, then steadying into a rhythm. We're good, I said, not believing it. We're good. Keep moving, Marcus. The truck rolled forward again. I stayed with the ambu bag, ready to assist if her breathing faltered again. The calf stirred beside her, still sedated but aware enough to press closer to his mother's warmth. Sarah monitored the vitals readout, calling numbers every 30 seconds. Heart rate 90. Respiration 18 per minute. BP holding at 62/43. Not great, but alive. We made it to the veterinary center at 1,327 hours. The surgical team was already assembled outside. Dr. James Coffey, our senior surgeon, plus 2 surgical nurses, an anesthesia tech, and 3 support staff. They'd prepped the operating theater, had blood products standing by, had imaging equipment ready. They'd done everything except the impossible part. That was still on us. The crane at the center was bigger, industrial grade, designed specifically for moving large animals. We backed the trailer up to the surgical facility's receiving dock. The elephant was still under, still breathing, still fighting. Bring her straight into OR2, Kofi called. We've got the table ready. The crane lifted her out of the trailer in the sling. The calf woke up as we moved his mother, started trumpeting again, softer this time, confused, scared. We carried him separately, placed him in a holding pen adjacent to the surgical suite. Close enough that he could smell his mother, close enough that she'd know he was there when she woke up. If she woke up, the surgical theater was cold, bright, sterile. We transferred the elephant from the sling to the reinforced surgical table, a massive steel platform with padding and restraint points. Kofi's team swarmed, connecting monitors, adjusting anesthesia levels, positioning lights. Kate, we need you in here, Kofi said. You know her condition better than anyone. I scrubbed in. The surgical team had already shaved and prepped the surgical site, a wide area around the mass. Up close, under the surgical lights, it looked even worse. Necrotic tissue at the edges, visible fluid accumulation. This thing had been growing for months, maybe longer. Scalpel, Kofi said. The first incision released a smell that hit like a physical force. Infected tissue, rotting from within. 2 of the nurses gagged. We kept working. Kofi cut deeper, exposing the mass itself. It was attached to the abdominal wall by thick vascular tissue blood vessels that had grown to feed the tumor. He clamped them one by one, cutting, cauterizing, moving with the precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Suction, he said. Blood pooled in the surgical field. The suction removed it, giving him a clear view. This thing has roots everywhere. It's like trying to remove an octopus. Can you get it out? I can try. He worked for 90 minutes, cutting, clamping, cauterizing. The mass came free in pieces, chunks of diseased tissue that we dropped into surgical pans. By the time he was done, we'd removed nearly 70 kilos of tumor. The elephant's abdomen looked hollow, deflated. Closing, Kofi said. The surgical team worked in sync. Sutures, layer by layer, closing the abdominal wall, closing the skin. Kofi's hands never wavered. 2 hours after we'd started, the last suture was tied. Done, he said, stepping back. Now we wait and see if she survives the night. We moved her to recovery, a large padded stall with monitoring equipment, IV stands, oxygen support. She was still deeply sedated, would be for several more hours. The calf was brought in, placed beside her. He immediately curled up against her side, his trunk resting on her foreleg. He'll stay with her, I asked. He'll stay, Kofi said. Elephants are smart. He knows something happened. He knows she needs him. I pulled up a chair, sat down, realized I'd been standing for 7 hours straight and my legs were shaking. Marcus brought me water, a protein bar that tasted like cardboard. I ate it anyway. You should get some rest, he said. Not yet. The elephant's chest rose and fell, slow but steady. The monitors showed stable vitals, heart rate dropping back into normal range, oxygen saturation improving, blood pressure holding. The surgery had been successful. The mass was gone, but there was still so much that could go wrong. Internal bleeding, infection, organ failure, rejection of the sutures, cardiovascular collapse from the stress. Any of a dozen things could kill her in the next 72 hours. I stayed, monitoring, watching, waiting. At 1,900 hours, she stirred, just a twitch of her ear at first. Then her eyes opened slightly. She was waking up. "Easy, Mama," I said softly. "Easy now. You're safe." Her trunk moved, searching, found the calf. He chirped a small, hopeful sound. She touched his head with her trunk tip. Gentle, reassuring, telling him she was still there. She was still there. Over the next 3 days, she grew stronger. We kept her on IV fluids, antibiotics, pain management. She ate a little, mostly browse, soft leaves we brought in. The calf nursed, and she let him, even though it clearly hurt. Kofi checked the surgical site twice daily. It was healing clean, no infection, no complications. "She's a fighter," he said on day 4. "I've seen younger elephants in better condition not make it this far. She's got something to live for." He glanced at the calf, still pressed against his mother's side. "Yeah," I said, "she does." By day 7, she was walking, slowly, carefully, but walking. The calf stayed close, matching her pace. We extended their enclosure, gave them more room to move. She spent most of her time resting, but each day she was up a little longer, moving a little easier. On day 10, Kofi examined the surgical site one final time. "The scar looks perfect," he said. "Mobility is excellent. She's strong again. Strong enough to release? Strong enough to go home." We transported them back to Sector 7 2 days later. Different trucks this time, comfortable, slow, no emergency equipment. The female walked into the trailer on her own, the calf following. They knew the routine now, trusted us, in their way. The release site was near where we'd found her, but with better water access and browse. We backed the trailer up to the clearing, opened the doors, stepped back. The female emerged first, trunk raised, testing the air. The calf came out behind her, staying close. She took a few steps into the clearing, stopped, looked around. Her family group was nearby. We'd radioed ahead, asked the rangers to monitor their location. An older matriarch and 4 other females with their calves. They'd been waiting. The matriarch approached slowly, trunk extended, touched the female's face, her trunk, her ears, checking, confirming. Then the rest of the family surrounded them, touching, rumbling, welcoming them back. The calf ran to the other young ones, playing immediately, like nothing had happened. Like his mother hadn't almost died. Like he hadn't spent 12 days watching her fight back from the edge. The female stood with her family for a long moment. Then she turned, looked back at us. Just for a second, her trunk raised slightly, not a threat. Something else. Maybe gratitude, maybe just acknowledgement, maybe nothing at all. Elephants don't think like we do, but I choose to believe she understood, that some part of her recognized what we'd done, that she knew we'd given her more time with her son. Then she turned away and walked into the bush with her family. The calf followed. Within minutes, they'd disappeared into the trees, just shapes and shadows, and the sound of branches breaking. I stood there longer than I needed to, watching the spot where they'd vanished. Marcus didn't say anything. He didn't need to. We both knew what it meant. We'd done our job. We'd saved 2 lives instead of losing them. And tomorrow, there'd be another call, another emergency, another impossible situation, where we'd have to choose between playing it safe and taking the risk. We'd take the risk. We always did. Because some things are worth fighting for. Some lives are worth saving, no matter the odds. That's what we do. That's what this job means. 3 months later, the rangers radioed with an update. They'd spotted the female and her calf with the family group near the permanent water source. She was healthy, gaining weight, moving easily. The calf had grown, was playing with the other juveniles, learning what it meant to be an elephant. The surgical scar was barely visible beneath the mud and dust she wore like armor. She carried no weight anymore, just the memory of what she'd survived. and the future she'd earned. That's enough. That's everything.